What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be previewing Port Adelaide versus the Western Bulldogs on Saturday early. We're going to be a 1 o'clock game. It's going to be a big game at Ballarat in a controversial game, this one, for fans more so than for the playing group. But we'll get into that in a second. It's going to be a massive game. If you asked me a couple of weeks ago, are you excited for the Dogs versus Port game, I would have been like, yeah, it's going to be one of those typical games where, you know, probably go either way, but it won't stand out. But this one's now got some revenue on it because the Dogs are in fine form, and Port Adelaide have won three in a row, and it's going to be something that, one to look forward to, and actually proves to be a massive game in the context of the season for both clubs. So, very much looking forward to it. Let's get straight into it, and let's preview round 8. So we're back down to Ballarat this week. It's against the Dogs, obviously, and it's going to be a fierce game of footy. And this one I'm a little bit nervous about now because the Dogs obviously have found some good form in the last couple of weeks, pumping up the Saints and also beating down on the Giants. So it's one of those ones where I kind of think this is a kind of game where Port Adelaide come up against a really quality outfit and somehow win. It's just one of those ones. The Dogs have proven to be good, and I think their form's fantastic. And it's funny, since Sam Darcy went down with his unfortunate knee injury against the Saints, it ended up being Port Adelaide. It ended up being the Dogs who have found just great form since that moment. You know, they've been in close games where they came across against Carlton and won. They just lost to the Pies. They haven't been in the greatest of form before that Saints game, and now they've finding some good touch. And it's amazing what good footy for a club does, because now they're looking at, regaining Adam Treloar back from his his long time out with a calf. So he doesn't have much longevity on that, is what I wanted to say. But, they've got Lachie McNeil, who's a good small forward. They've found some great finds. James Harms, kicking 4 goals last week. Riley West is amongst the goals. They've got Aaron Norton clicking again. Rory Lobb is their swingman that can play down back or down forward, and he's kicking goals. Buku Karmas is kicking goals as well. They've found some unique options to prove that they have the ability to kick a winning score, and they've done that the last couple of weeks. And the thing with Port Adelaide is, we're not the most leaky defence in the world. We're very clumsy when we come to our defence, but we're not leaking goals. We have not been too dysfunctional in our losses this year. We haven't conceded. I think we've only conceded 100 points once this year, and that's against the Pies. The Tigers, we only conceded 70 odd. The Swans the other week was only 70 odd. Hawthorn got to 90 odd. Even on the weekend, North only got 88, and the Saints only scored 88 and 89 in their win. Essendon only got across the line with 70. So we haven't leaked too much, which is a positive thing. The only problem is we probably haven't scored as much as we'd like. We've had a couple of big scores, 121 and 140 odd against the Tigers as well, but we have struggled with scoring too. So I think this week for Port Adelaide to win this game, obviously there's two things. Playing down in Ballarat is going to be quite windy, so I think kicking straight is going to be a massive focal point for us this week. If I look at it as well, I look at how we'll structure up, and I think Ollie Lord and Georgiadis will take the front of it. Do I think Jeremy Finlayson plays this week? I'm not entirely sure, but we can stretch the Dogs' defence. If you remember last year, we played quite a tall forward line against the Dogs, and we ended up winning by 50 odd points at home. So there's a few structural dominances that we do have. The ruckman Tim English versus Jordan Sweet against his old club is going to be a fascinating matchup, which is going to be quite unique. It's a game of footy that I think we look okay on paper, if I'm honest. Am I confident about this game? No, not really. I'm not confident. I never am at this stage of the year with Port, especially when, even when last year at this time of the year, we lost a couple of games that we probably should have won, and I just wasn't feeling that confidence yet, and I still don't have that. And it goes from the last week's performance. North Melbourne only win by 9 points. I know the umpires had a hand in that, and we also didn't play fantastically. So I'm not completely convinced with our form compared to the Dogs, who have stood up in moments and have been able to match their competitors, which is going to be quite interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we work in Ballarat. It is quite windy. We haven't lost since playing down there. We've played there a couple of times in 2017 and 2018, and we didn't lose. So we're undefeated in Ballarat. So that's a real positive. And we're currently 4-0 in the last 4 games to play the Dogs. So we've beaten them obviously in Gather Round. We've won at Marvel. And a couple of times we've also played them at home. We've won over the last couple of years. So it's a very big positive. And we seem to be able to really match up well in the last couple of years. So it's a good thing. I think Aaliyah goes to Norton. Does our selection become an interesting factor? We'll wait and see. But I'm very intrigued to see how we go this week. So if I look at selections and I look at what we're going to do this week, I'm fascinated by it because we didn't play fantastically well in the sample over the weekend. We've been not completely inundated. We've got one force change this week, and that'll be Josh Sin with the concussion protocols. The injury report came out, and unfortunately Josh Lay will be out for a little while. Trav Boakes to be confirmed with his back, and that really worries me because he's an old man. So I don't see him coming back for a couple of weeks. We know Tom Cochran is out with his foot, so he won't be coming back in. I only see the one force change. Now, it's interesting how we'll go. Do we go Logan Evans for Josh Sin, straight swap? Do we do Brandon Zerk-Thatcher in for Josh Sin? Are we going a bit taller because it's the Dogs? Do we bring in Ryan Burton? There are a few options. Dylan Williams down back. Do we go the double change? And it's, Jeremy Finlayson goes out. Does he be the sub again? Is he that unique difference that we have him as the sub again? And, you've got BZT coming back from his back and everything like that. So the selections is quite interesting. And I personally would bring in Brandon Zerk-Thatcher, Josh Sin out, Jeremy Finlayson goes as the sub again. And that's the one force change you make. And they match up better. I really like the idea of having, Sava on Norton. I really like the idea of, Aaliyah on Buku Karmas, and, if BZT has to go to Rory Lobb or it's the other way around, you can get those matchups right. But it helps Aaliyah be that free man, that loose man who he's been dominating really well. It helps out Miles Bergman. He becomes more of a running halfback than a matching up one-on-one, which he's had to do the last couple of weeks because of the matchup. And our backline is one week good, 1 week bad, 1 week mediocre, and when it's put under the pump, it's kind of dangerous. You obviously got Rosie as well taking the forefront of a lot of the running ability and kick-ins and everything. So the backline's the big question for me, and if that stands up this weekend, we can only concede 10, 11 goals for a game of footy for the Dogs. I think that will help us quite a bit. I think we have the scoring power to do it, and I don't think too many changes are warranted anyway. Even last week's performance wasn't that bad. It was closer than we would like, but barring, as I said, like the issues with the umpiring and a couple of stupid actions from the kick across goal for Rosie, just straight turned it over. Power Pepper going into the goal square, getting a free kick and kicking it to the man on the mark. Georgiadis putting it 20 metres in the air and 5 metres across the face of goal with his left foot. That's if we take strength and really hold our ground this week, I think we get quite a good job. We'll do quite a good job, in my honest opinion. And that's the conversations I think a lot of Port fans will be having. If we can get this win, we're going into a showdown next week feeling very, very confident, which is what we need at the moment. If Port have confidence going in to the back end of the year with the bye and everything else, it's games like these you have to win. And this is very, very important. And we've got a match up on the Bont. And Willem Drew, I'm looking at you. So Port fans, a tip this week. I can't tip against Port Adelaide, and I'm going to tip us by 11 points. I feel like we've got the capabilities to win this game. It's very 50-50. The Dogs will be heavy favourites. They've been quite positive in the press. I know the Jamara Ugle-Hagan situation's always looming, but I think they've got a very positive outfit, and we just have to be accountable and making sure that we stand up in the key moments. And if we do that, we'll win this game. We started very, very well recently too. So it'll all come down to that, and it'll come down to maybe winning a last quarter, because if we can do that as well, then I think we might get across the line. So let me know in the comments below your thoughts and your tips for this week, Port fans. I can't wait to talk about how we're going to go this week. It's going to be amazing. So thank you very, very much for watching. My name's Anthony. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new, for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content to come your way. And as always, come the pair.